everybody. Welcome to the Twin Bill Baseball Podcast. I'm What-A-Day Joe, along with the player Benny Scala. And today we're talking epic home runs. And Benny, you were just talking about this home run derby from 1959. Let's lead it off with that real quick. What do you think?
What a great show. I stumbled upon that, I don't know, it's years ago when it was on ESPN Classic.
Yeah.
And I just, I said home run derby, and I clicked on it, and you got it. It's a 9-inning format. It was all the greats, and it was filmed in 1959, December 1959, at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. They filmed 26 episodes in December.
Okay.
They aired them from January through June of 1960, just like a regular episodic TV show. And I'll throw some of the names at it. You get Mays, Mantle, Aaron, Killebrew, Ernie Banks, Frank Robinson, Eddie Matthews, all those guys. Giants of the game back then. It was a 9-inning format. Yep. They got 3 outs, and I believe, and I could be a little bit wrong on the rules, but a foul ball or a ball that did not leave the park was an out. They got 3 outs per inning, and they just I don't think a strike was an out.
I wonder how many home runs they hit altogether in these matches.
You get they'd get hit like 15 maybe, but you had a jabroni, a batting practice, an enhancement talent pitcher serving the ball up, and then whoever, say it was Mays and Mantle, and then say Mays was up at bat, then Mickey would be sitting with the announcer. Yeah, and they'd be just exchanging pleasantries and small talk. They got paid. Actually, I don't remember the compensation. It wasn't bad considering, back in 59, these guys were probably making 50, 75, which back then wasn't bad either, but they got a little bit extra pocket money.
Not a bad gig, but that was very, very interesting when you sent the script over. And I was like, home run derby from 59, unbelievable. I think what was more shocking, that Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. There was
Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. I think the right field fence was like 340, and left field it wasn't a big ballpark.
No, but still,
a nice shot. It's going to go out. And I think they had college kids playing in the outfield, just to shag them. It really didn't matter whether they caught it or not. It was irrelevant. If it didn't leave the park, it was an out. But you're talking about almost all these guys. I think maybe all of them are Hall of Famers.
Oh, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.
The ones I just read, they're all in the Hall of Fame. But see these guys,
definitely, you can find these on YouTube, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
right, we'll have to do some of that. Maybe throw some videos out there later on in the season and so forth. But I'd like to take a look at that. But
if you're an old school baseball fan,
sure,
you'll probably want to binge watching, and you can thank us afterwards.
I got to check that. out. In case everybody's tuning in, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the Twin Bill Baseball Podcast. I am What-A-Day Joe, joined by the player Benny Scala, and today we're talking epic home runs. All right, so let's kick it off here. You get some nicknames for home runs here. The one I never heard of before is the circuit clout.
Oh, really?
I never heard of that one.
Oh, yeah. That was popular. I'd say probably in the mid to late '60s. The circuit clout.
Oh, wow.
Now I'm surprised you heard of a sockdolliger.
I've heard of it. I've never heard it be called, I've never heard somebody say it, but I knew the term.
That was in the 20s. That was a sports writer term. And I don't, it means an epic hit, but I guess, pretty much any home run is going to be a sockdolliger. I like the term four-bagger because that's synonymous to most of my dates. There you go. Four-baggers, yeah.
I see that. Tater, I've heard of. Dinger was a good one. The Ballantine Blast.
That was only if you were a Yankee fan because, Ballantine was their sponsor. That was pretty much a Mel Allen thing. Holy cow. Well, no, Holy Cow was Rizzuto, but it was a Ballantine Blast. And then a gopher ball. Gopher ball was from the pitcher's perspective.
You got to love that.
They threw up a go. Robin Roberts was.
It was an announcer for the Red Sox back in, I want to say, 99 season. He used to call them Tall Jacks.
That one I never heard.
He tried to coin the phrase. He got people at the All-Star game to say it, but I've never seen it take off. But it was called Tall Jacks.
Yeah,
I don't understand what it was for, but
and home runs were initially not a big part of baseball.
I'm looking at the beginning of this here. What was it? 1919. Babe Ruth finally with the Red Sox. He hit 29 home runs. Not a lot of home runs,
right? But the first player in the 20th century to hit more than 25.
My goodness.
Previous year he was tied for the lead with 11.
Oh,
and he was still a full-time pitcher with the Sox. And then the year before that, Yankee Wally Pipp,
Yeah, Pip.
who had the headache turned around the world. I think it was in 1925. He went up on the bench, and Luke Eric replaced him forever.
Unbelievable.
He
Unbelievable. So
9
nine
home
home
runs.
runs. 9.
Yeah, I mean 9, and there was, if you go to the Baseball Almanac, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
can see the home run leaders
Sure.
by year.
Yep.
Frequently, I mean it's been it was as low as 5 home runs.
Wow.
Ruth was
Now,
the one who Babe Ruth made it into a thing.
was it just not part of the game back then? Was it just base hits and bunts and all that stuff? Was it just
Honestly, Joe, I think it's a combination. The ball was probably a little bit deader, but but then all of a sudden here comes Ruth, and he did what nobody else ever did. And we talked last week about
Sure.
how in 1927 he hit 60 home runs, and the second highest team total to the Yankees was 56 home runs. So
team total,
he
right?
just he made it into a thing, and it's been a thing ever since.
Wow, that's incredible. I want to know statistically why that was. Like you said, the baseball, was it the most of the ball fields back then? Maybe they were too far. Like
it could have been the dimensions
could
of
have
the
been
ball.
420 from left to right for all we know. I have no idea. But
because the Yankee Stadium was called the house that Ruth built, but specifically the right field porch, I think back then was 296 feet.
Yep. Fenway Park, 310 down the line to the monster, but you have a 37-foot wall you have to get it over with first.
Yeah, Yankee Stadium, I think the fence was maybe 4 or 5 feet. I mean,
a
lazy fly ball off the bat of Ruth just kept carrying, like an infield fly would carry into the right field bleachers. But yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it too, is the architecture of the ballparks going forward.
All right, let's get right to the list. You get number 1 here. Why don't you tell us? Why don't you set the stage on this one?
Well, this is one of my favorite home runs of all time.
I remember this one vividly.
It's kind of obscure. I mean, and if you look at lists of greatest home runs, typically you're not going to see this home run on there because it really wasn't there's no historical significance of it. Right. I just think of how it unfolded. So on July 24th, 1983 at Yankee Stadium, George Brett hit, I remember watching it on TV, a mammoth home run off Goose Gossage. I mean, Goose was throwing 99-mile-an-hour heat back then, and George Brett just jacked one. And then next thing you know, and I mean, I watched this, and I'll never forget this. Billy Martin comes out, protested to Tim McClellan, who was the home plate umpire. That there was too much pine tar in the bat, or it went up too far in the bat. I guess there was certain you can only go up so far in the bat. And McClellan agreed with Martin and negated the home run. I guess the game was over. And the thing that it wasn't the home run, it was watching George Brett.
Oh, the eyeballs.
Remember that? He kind of ran, and I thought he was going to have an aneurysm before he got to the umpire.
Exactly.
How he didn't assault that umpire. I mean, the man has unbelievable self-control.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just remember the videos, the news, national news, local news. We're talking 1983, of course. So whether it was on your local news or not, it was everywhere, pictures, everything. And all I remember is his eyeballs were bulging out of the TV set.
I thought they were going to fall out of his head.
Yeah, it was crazy. And didn't they do like a mock commercial or something like that about that years later?
I believe so, yeah.
Like pine tar, don't use too much pine tar next time or something crazy like that. But one thing I didn't know about that, though, is looking back on it, that the American League president, Lee McPhail, actually said the home run was valid.
Yep. Yeah.
And that game was to be resumed from there, and that the Royals ended up winning 5-4.
I mean, how many times in the history of Major League Baseball was a protest upheld? That's the one and only time I can actually remember.
I've never seen that before, and I think that's insane. So right there, we're talking epic home runs. These are epic home runs. They might not have won or lost a game, but they do have some significance, whether it's not historical, because I didn't see a pine tar incident after that.
Well, I mean, and I guarantee anybody that listens to this show that's, over maybe the age of 50, that watched that game, they're going to just chuckle and say, oh, yeah, I remember that. That's unforgettable.
All right, next up, what do you got here? This goes back a little ways.
This is one of the most controversial home runs of all time. In Wrigley Field, October 1st, 1932. Isn't it funny how it was Game 3 of the World Series, that they were already playing Game 3 of the World Series in October.
Yep.
And we're just getting started with the ALDS, right?
Yeah,
or the wild card playoffs. But Babe Ruth steps up to bat. Has, I think, a 2-strike count on him. They're playing the Cubs in the World Series, and he points to the center field bleachers. Charlie Root was the pitcher for the Cubs. next pitch hits the ball exactly to the precise spot he pointed to.
Wow.
And this has been for now, 1932. So we're talking 91 years
91
that
years.
people have been debating whether or not he actually pointed. And you got probably 50-50. You have, and of course, anybody who was, any ball player who was at the game is long gone, and probably any fan at this point.
Exactly.
Is
there any, obviously, photography, was that even around then? Maybe, but not like the way they take pictures now. They probably had the gunpowder on the stick type thing at home plate. It was very expensive to take a picture back in those days.
Right.
So,
some people say,
people
say that he was just, it was the second strike, and he just said, he lifted his hand up and said, "That's two."
Yeah.
And he kind of did like almost like the peace sign.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then you have other players that they interviewed while they were still alive, and they swear that he called a shot.
I do recall the reenactment with John Goodman and the Babe.
Right.
When he did it, and legend has it that he did it. So we have to go by what that says, I guess, right? You never know.
I'm a dreamer. I'm going to go with the fact that he did it.
Why not? Why not?
I mean,
Why not?
And if anybody could do it, who else but Babe Ruth?
Exactly. Now, this next one you have, there's no doubt about it, synonymous with baseball and home run calls. Why don't you walk us through this one?
Oh, yeah. October 3rd, 1951, the Polo Grounds, Game 3 of the National League playoffs. Oh, yeah. Sudden death playoff necessitated by the fact that I think the Dodgers had, maybe a 13-game lead or an 11-game lead at the All-Star break, and the Giants slowly caught up, tied them on the last day of the season, forced a 3-game playoff, and this was Game 3. New York Giants outfielder Bobby Thompson hits the shot heard round the world off Brooklyn pitcher Ralph Branca. Giving the Giants a thrilling come from behind 5-4 victory. And in the on-deck circle was a young rookie named Willie Mays. That's always I've actually won a couple of baseball trivia radio contests back in the day.
Sure. Yep.
When the question was, who was on deck when Bobby Thompson hit the home run? And it was Willie Mays. And I mean, you can get the audio. I think actually you can get the actual home run on YouTube. But I believe Russ Hodges was the announcer.
Wow.
And he just kept saying, "The Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant."
Yeah, I remember that. I mean, we always tried to wiffle ball growing up. That I wasn't even around then, but wiffle ball growing up, that's one of the things you remember watching historically, and you wanted to reenact that every time.
And Branca was actually a pretty decent pitcher for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But whenever anybody hears the name Ralph Branca, that's all I think about. Oh, he's the guy that, it's amazing how that one event, you're attached to that one event. It's kind of like Buckner with the ground ball.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Buckner was an excellent ball player, one of my favorites.
He was just humbled by a bad ankle 1 year, I know. Yeah.
Right. And people, he blew the World Series. And he didn't. I mean, he made an error, yes, but there was so many other events leading to them losing that game.
All right, we're going back to 1935 for the next one. And Babe Ruth, again, this one was kind of neat because, he's playing for the Boston Braves. He's at the end of his career, right? This is like I don't know, it's just like a favor to Boston fans and all that to bring Babe Ruth back. I mean, he obviously nobody wanted him.
It was more that nobody wanted him. I guess they kind of took him to put a little bit extra, and not a bad publicity move. He's going to bring a few fannies in the seats just for. I
think that's what nostalgia. It was, putting butts in the seats back then, and obviously he hit 3 home runs to cap off his career, even though he played 5 more games after that. If memory serves me right, based on the book and so forth, didn't he have pinch runners back then? He couldn't even run the bases.
Yeah, and that was. That was also covered in the movie The Babe with John Goodman. Yep. I remember the pinch runner, but in the movie they pretty much depicted it that he was done after that. After that game, he walked away, but not totally true. I mean, you kind of have to embellish things for the movie.
You got to throw the Hollywood element in there. Sure.
Not a good season for The Babe. I think he hit like 181 in I don't know how many. Yeah. He's 40 years old. He was out of shape. I mean, he was definitely at the end of the line.
Oh, sure. All right. Now we're moving up to 61 and 61. Historical reference. Oh, yes, there is. Why don't you walk us through this one?
Oh, one of my favorite home runs, too. Roger Maris hits his 61st home run of the season off of Boston pitcher Tracy Stollard, breaking the 34-year-old Major League home run record set by the Babe in 1927. So, and Maris's record would stand for 37 years as far as a Major League record. when it was broken by Mark McGuire, who hit 70 for the Cardinals in 1998. I kind of, I guess I don't really recognize that, but it stood as an American League record for 61 years. How ironic. He hit 61 in 1961,
yeah.
and it stands for 61 years when it was broken by another Yankee.
There's no coincidences in that. That's probably going to take another 61 years before anything like that happens again. But and then you have Aaron Judge, who broke. What year did Judge break that? I forget what year that was.
2022.
22, right? It was 2 years
ago,
right?
Year before last. Yeah, and he was.
Yep.
I mean,
post-COVID.
Started off good last year, but then he got hurt.
That's right.
That was more of a typical season. I'm thinking, okay, the jinx of which is another thing we talked about, the long-term contracts.
And he was such a power hitter. And don't forget, they're at the new Yankee Stadium, and they moved that right fields. They moved that in pretty much. I mean, balls fly out of Yankee Stadium now like they're fly balls. So
I think Aaron Judge is going to change history to the extent that, when people would – that's another nickname for home runs was a Ruthian shot or a Ruthian clout.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be changed to a Judgian.
Yeah, the Judgian. There you go.
Yeah, because he hits moonshots.
All right, let's go to October 2nd, 1978. I'm a 8-year-old kid in school, and everybody in the world in Boston has to run home and watch a one-game playoff between the Red Sox and, of course, those beloved New York Yankees. Oh, I remember this day. This is probably my first heartbreak as a kid, watching Bucky freaking Dent.
I was going to say, what did you guys call him in Boston? There was a name between Bucky and Dent, right?
Yeah,
he had a middle name.
Bucky effing Dent.
Bucky effing Dent, right?
That was a horrible thing. It was a great comeback by the Red Sox to tie it and so forth, to get that one-game playoff. But Bucky Dent hitting that home run off Mike Torres, who I loved. I idolized him.
Good pitcher. Great pitcher.
Clemens' number 21 back in the day before Roger Clemens came around. So Mike Torres was a great pitcher.
Pinpoint control. I remember that.
And he hit that. And, we'll be revisiting another famous Yankee home run off of Red Sox later on in the program. But that was a heartbreak for me and so forth. But all right, let's go up to 1977, October 18th. Let's walk us through this one, Mr. October.
This was one of my, and I've been fortunate enough to live through many of these, watching many of these home runs. So, and on October 18th, 1977, in the 6th game of the World Series, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, hit home runs on consecutive pitches off Bert Hooton, Elias Sosa, and Charlie Huff, giving the Yankees the win and clinching their first World Championship, actually, since 1962. Yeah,
that's amazing.
And that last shot, we almost looked like a golf shot because Huff threw the knuckleball.
Yep.
So Reggie had to supply all the power, but he just, he hit a moonshot.
And nicknamed Mr. October after that. Unbelievable. They just named the Texas Ranger Mr. October, the second baseman there this year. I thought that was kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah,
but Reggie put himself on the map. I mean, he was already a clutch hitter, but three, and I believe I might be wrong on this one. I think the previous game he hit a home run on his last at bat, so it would have been like 4 consecutive pitches. Somebody might have to fact check me on that one, but
we'll have to look at that one. That could be a possibility too. But nonetheless, he's still Mr. October, so that'll work. And again, we have another Reggie Jackson epic home run, July 13th, 71, Oakland A's. Doc Ellis. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Now, this is in the 71 All-Star game.
Tiger Stadium.
Struck the tower on the roof. And NASA has been tracking the orbit of this home run for 50 years.
It never landed. This, if you watch this, I mean, in fact, I watched it a couple of days ago in preparation for this show because I hadn't seen it in a long time. I mean, I remember why I was, 16 when it happened. Remember watching it, and when he hit it, the whole place just froze, including Reggie. He just stood there and he watched it, which is kind of like back then they didn't really do that.
If you're hitting something like that, you're going to end up watching it. I mean,
I've never seen a harder hit ball in my life. It truly, it just struck off the tower there. And I think the only other person who ever did that at Tiger Stadium was Norm Cash.
Okay. Wow.
Somebody that you really don't know for power. You wouldn't think of him as a power hitter, but
you wouldn't think. All right. Yankee Stadium again, 1965, June 18th. Excuse me. Let's hear about this one.
This has absolutely zero significance to anybody but myself and the player who hit the home run.
But it's epic.
So,
it's epic.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little rant on this. So on June 18th, 1965, 6 days before my 10th birthday, my dad, as a gift, took me to Yankee Stadium
Wow.
to see the Yankees against the Twins. Now, in that game, there were home runs by Mantle, Maris, Phil Linz. Remember Phil Linz, the harmonica
yeah, I
guy?
remember the name. Yeah.
And not relatively, an unknown player, number 53, Ross Moschito. And if you remember him, if I was wearing a hat, I would take it off right now and salute you. Anybody out there?
Sounds like
he hit a home
slice of
run,
salami or something. I don't know.
hit a home run off the left field foul pole. He was the fourth home run.
Wow.
And what's the significance of this? Besides that, I was there to watch it. It was his one and only home run of his brief major league career. I think he actually had 6 hits in his whole career. He played it as so. He was his nickname was Mickey Mantle's legs. He was a center fielder.
Yeah.
And what they would do is, after 7 innings, maybe
switch him up.
And you figured, remember in '65, the Yankees that was their decline year.
Yeah.
So they really weren't in a pennant race. So after 7 innings or so, you have Mantle, who was by then 35 years old, tired or hungover or whatever. But they would, trot him back into the dugout, and out would come Moschito, play the last inning or two. So I think he played
unbelievable
107 games, but only got up 28 times.
Wow. But you were there to see the one and only home run.
But yeah,
that was it. That's history. That's epic. That's epic right there.
And there will be at some point JP Zarka, who owns the Pro Wrestling Stories website that I write for.
Okay.
He is going to eventually launch a Pro Sports Stories website.
Okay.
And which will include baseball stories.
Oh,
and
wow.
I already have a story written called Mickey Mantle's Legs. And It's about Ross Moschito and about my experience at Yankee Stadium.
That's awesome.
And this is 58 years ago.
And you remember it so vividly.
Like it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny that I was the most excited. I tell people, I went to a Yankee game where both Mantle and Maris hit home runs. And, oh, my God, you got to see something like that?
That's
and my first memory is it was Moschito's one and only home run of his
there
career.
You go. Now, the next one, I remember the news breaking in, the national news when this happened. Obviously going back to 74, April 6th. Season must have just been underway at that point.
Yeah.
Hank Aaron hits his second home run of the season off LA pitchers Al Downing en route to a 7-4 Braves victory. That was obviously second part of what happened here. More importantly, the home run is 715th of Hank Aaron's career, breaking the previous held by Babe Ruth since 1935.
Yeah.
That is, I remember that. I remember watching TV and they interrupted the national news had that top of the hour type promo, whatever. And I was watching something with my dad and they interrupted everything and they went over there and they said, he just hit his 715th home run. I'm like, what happened? Who is that guy? I was only 4 or 5 years old, but that was one of my first memorable, breaking news, interrupting anything that was going on with the stations and all that. This just in, almost superfluous to Kennedy getting shot.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, what's going on? And they showed it and it was amazing. I mean, but what I forgot about that was so early in the season, very early in the season. The season had to have been a week old, if that.
Maybe? Yeah. Because April 8th, it couldn't have been more than a few days.
Yeah. All right. So the next
one.
I'll
tell you what, though, real quick.
Yeah.
The two things that I remember is the guy who caught the ball in the bullpen was Tom House.
Oh, wow.
Of the Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
That was probably his greatest moment in baseball. And the other one is that, sadly, and I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, that was 49 years ago, but all the hate mail that Aaron got, I mean, most of it racially related.
Oh, yeah.
The
country was still divided at that time.
Oh, my God. I mean,
definitely.
I give that man all the credit in the world for, just conducting himself like
he paved the way. He's one of the trailblazers. He paved the way.
Yeah, but that what a shame. But yeah, I mean, I remember that one too. And, that was truly one of the most epic home runs ever, breaking a record held by Babe Ruth like that.
All right. October 15th, 88, Dodger Stadium. Vin Scully with the call. Walk us through, Benny. What's this one?
So remember the movie Misery with James Caan and Jessica Bates?
Oh, Kathy Bates. Yeah.
Kathy Bates. I'm sorry. Why do I always call her Jessica Bates? I don't know.
It's probably your middle name for all we know. Who knows?
Maybe. Yeah. But remember the hobbling scene?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
When she waxed both of his ankles with a a mallet or whatever. And, it's sickening watching his ankles bend the way they do. But, I mean, Kirk Gibson literally hobbled to home plate like he had just been hobbled by Kathy Bates. Yep. And, I mean, hits a walk-off home run off Dennis Eckersley, probably the best relief pitcher in
closer at the time. There was no doubt
absolutely.
I want to say besides Hershiser, he was like second in Cy Young voting, I think, that year.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I think he did win one year. He won the Cy Young and the MVP.
Years. One of those Oakland A's 4-year stints there. He won it there, but he had no business being up at bat. No.
And what did he say? I can't believe what I just saw.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, but
I remember the camera shaking in the center field. I remember all that.
That was the game winner, and they won the series.
Vince Scully with the call. That was unbelievable.
Yep.
All right, back to Yankees, Globe Life Field in New York. No, where is Globe Life Field?
Well,
where is that?
Texas.
Texas, that's right. Aaron Rudge, obviously this is historic. Number 62 of the year, breaking that 61-year-old record by Maris. Where were you then?
In 61 or in 2022?
22. We were just getting over COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I followed him all season long. I mean, for a while there, I thought he was going to shatter McGuire or Bond's record.
Yeah,
because he was going at a huge clip, and he kind of slowed down. But you know what? I mean, I know Bonds has a record, and I know McGuire hit 70 and Sosa hit 66. But to me, it's Judge at 62 and Maris at 61, and those to me, those are the records.
And it's no mistake that's all Yankees too. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
that's what that's what you don't see anymore. It's that type of dominance.
I would tell you, Joe, that if Ted Williams decided that he wanted to take 20 or 30 points off his batting average and go for home runs, I bet he would have hit 80 every season.
He might have. He was
no doubt.
I believe it. He was just a pure hitter, though. He hit for numbers, not for homers. That's for sure. All right, Forbes Field, Bill Mazeroski, 1960, a little before my time, but walk us through this bad boy.
Well, I mean, and you talked about, Bucky effing Dent being a heartbreaker for you in 1978. I was 5 years old. I don't remember this. I learned about it as I grew up. But Bill at Forbes Field, Bill Mazeroski hits a game-winning home run off Ralph Terry of the Yankees.
Sure.
And it gave the Pirates a Game 7 win over the Yankees. This represented their first World Series win since 1925. So they had a 35-year drought. I don't think they won again until 79, maybe, or no, they did. Didn't they win in the early 70s with Clemente? I think they did.
Yeah, I think Clemente, Roberto. Yep.
Maybe 70 or 71.
Yep.
But the Pirates, this is a funny stat, were outscored 60-27. Yet they still won the series. Yeah, I mean, the games the Yankees won were all blowouts. The ones that the Pirates won were squeakers. Mickey Mantle said that this was the one and only game that he ever cried after the game was over.
Wow.
It was a heartbreak. I mean,
that says a lot.
And the other sigsignificance of this game is it was the last game for Casey Stengel as the manager of the Yankees. So they fired the guy. I mean, figure this. The guy, he had joined the Yankees in 1949. I think in 12 seasons, he had won 9 pennants and 7 world championships.
That's Bill Russell's stuff right there.
It is. And, which is like John Wooden at UCLA. I mean, it's like total domination. And so he lost the 7th game. Now, granted, he was 70 at the time. Yeah. But then he got picked up by the Mets and managed for a few more years. The old professor.
Unbelievable. That's a great list you comprised there. And I'm sure there's a lot of other memorable ones, honorable mentions in there. But
I got your Carlton Fisk home run.
Yeah, well, hold on. Yeah, we're just getting my list together. I got 5. I got 5. I got to go 5-1. The first one I recall was back in, I want to see, was it 93, 94? And I have a picture of it. And maybe you could tell me which this one is right there.
Joe Carter.
Joe Carter. That's right.
It wasn't the only wild thing, right?
This wasn't the only home run to end a World Series. We'll get to that, but it was the only home run to end a World Series that came while the players' team was trailing. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And Mitch Wild Thing Williams, remember him?
Oh yeah.
The wheels fell off.
Oh yeah.
And one of the greatest things about that, because I'm a broadcaster, is that is when, who was it? What's his name there? Tom Cheek had the old motto, touch 'em all, Joe, touch 'em all. And they went on to win the World Series. And that was an unbelievable, epic home run in my book for that one. And I do, obviously, it's the only time that a foreign team, technically from Canada, has won the World Series.
Right, exactly.
And they won back to back, and they would have won 3 in a row. But I do believe the strike of 94, was it, came about? And they almost gave Toronto the championship.
Do you think we ever see that again? A three-peat?
No way. I don't.
And we certainly don't see a Casey Stengel 9 pennants in 12 years.
No.
That'll never happen again.
No, I don't think so. All right, so let's go to this one. Game 2, 2013 ALCS. Red Sox versus Detroit Tigers, trailing 5-1 on the bottom of the 8th. Big Papi David Ortiz hits a grand slam to tie the game. Now, the most talked about thing about this home run was this picture I'm about to show you. Let me pull this up here. Where are we?
We got graphics.
There we go. Torrey Hunter, head over heels, misses the ball, giving Papi the grand slam. And Boston Police Department officer Steve Horgan doesn't care about Torrey Hunter falling over the right field wall there. He just cares about the fact that the ball landed in the bullpen and that Big Papi David Ortiz tied the ball game. That picture is so famous now. Believe it or not, he is a cult icon in Boston.
It looks like he's just trying to imitate.
He has meet and greets.
Imitate Torrey Hunter.
Yeah, he's got meet and greets going on. People know who he is. He was on the cover. Even Sports Illustrated covered him. He was on everything that year. That was amazing.
Isn't it funny how, like, I remember, what's that guy's name? Steve Bartman. The one.
Oh, yeah.
So even fans can become famous if they're in the right place at the right time.
That's the wrong kind of famous, though.
Right. Yeah. And that's infamy. That's not fame.
Here we go back to the Yankees again. We all remember this day. Aaron, we call this guy Aaron effing Boone too, hits a home run in the 2003 ALCS Game 7 for the Red Sox to lose. Tim Wakefield gave up the dinger there. And this, the funny thing about this one is they pulled Pedro Martinez just a little bit too early to set this all up. And Grady Little, the manager, was fired 11 days later. They hired Terry Francona, and they declared this a 2004 prelude to the World Series comeback. Like it was a revenge year. They hired a coach. Sure. They got the Wild Boys, all those idiots back together, and their goal was just to win the World Series at any cost to get back at the Yankees. And that's how our season ended the year before. And I remember people were jumping off bridges over this because this Red Sox team, they gripped Red Sox Nation. They thought that was going to be the year. Unbeknownst to us, it was the following year that took place.
Breaking an 85-year-old drought, but they just got it the next year.
There you go. And of course, moving up the list here, Game 6, bottom of the 12th inning, some guy named Carlton Fisk hits a ball towards the left field wall. It appears to be going foul. All the while, Fisk waves it fair. That's right. And of course, that got them to win. That forced the Game 7, even though they lost. But I do remember a young Dick Stockton making that call. He said, quote unquote, if it stays fair, it's gone. And it hits the foul pole. And that was the end of that. And I remember him running the bases and people were trying to mob him at home plate. This is before security was at a big time thing like it is now. But Carlton Fisk barely made it around third base when he had to push people out of the way to touch home plate to make sure that they got that win.
That is truly a historic home run. I mean, any baseball fan worth their salt remembers that home run.
Now, this is my favorite home run. Remember this one?
Oh, God.
Roy Hobbs of the New York Knights pennant, winning moonshot off Pittsburgh Pirates. That's right. Hobbs hits a foul ball that splits off his lightning forged bat called Wonder Boy. And that splits it in two. And then he goes over to bat boy Bobby Savoy, who brings him his own bat. What was it called?
Oh, geez.
The Savoy Special.
That's right.
And down to his last strike, he's bleeding through his team jersey, obviously due to an injury from before. He smashed the baseball high into the upper right stadium seats, shattering the game's nightlights in the home run, winning the game and the pennant. And to this day, that's like Reggie Jackson's moonshot. I think that ball's still going as well.
I will say that if you are a baseball fan and you watch that scene on YouTube, you don't get goosebumps, then you're in need of a heart transplant because you don't have one.
It's also the music. The music was
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it takes forever for him to run around the bases, but it's just crazy. It's perfect.
unbelievable. It was a great movie. I don't know why. Did that win any awards that,
It should have. I mean, you
It
had
has to.
you had Redford, you had
I mean, the
who else?
storyline, the stars that were in it. You had a lot of young stars, a lot of character actors that were in it as well. But Robert Redford, that was an unbelievable movie.
Epic. And I tell you what, though,
Yeah.
his pitching motion was really, really smooth.
Oh yeah.
And his swing was great. I mean,
Yep.
he must have played some ball, or either that, or he really
can't teach that
studied.
stuff. Yeah, you can't teach that stuff.
No, I don't think you can replicate that motion unless you've done it in the past.
Right. Exactly.
But I mean, that's a great pick. I mean, that's a great home run.
Yeah, so I mean, I have that up there. Obviously, it's fictitious, but nonetheless, it was still entertaining and epic to me because I was 15 years old when that movie came out. And
you know what, Joe? It's like wrestling. It's real to me, damn it.
Oh yeah, and it's like you're playing wiffle ball in your backyard, or even you're playing real ball like I did too, and you just wanted to replicate those moments, and that's exactly what we did, and that's why these are so memorable. Your home runs were memorable, even though some of them were before my time, in your time. But I recall seeing in the history archives these moonshots, these shots heard around the world. Balls hitting foul poles and records being set, 61 and 61. We've all seen the movie, and it's just been epic stuff. And you just got to love it. You got to love it.
It just adds to the beauty of baseball. Just these moments in time, and especially if you watched it and it brings you back, it brings you back in time. You can remember, like I remember, sitting on my living room couch when Bucky Dent hit that home run, and I got up and I hurled an expletive, and like it was one of the few times my mom was out shopping, so I got away with it. I mean,
you got away with it, yeah.
I got away with it, but I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday. Yeah. Brett's home run. I remember the same thing. Like,
oh my God!
I just like you. I just remember the eyes.
The eyes bulging.
The eyes.
Just and Billy Martin, what a manager! I mean, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these characters are. I mean, they are characters. They're real life people, but my God, that's the stuff we grew up with.
But who would I even? I mean, give credit to Martin. I mean, yeah. I mean, it did get overturned, but the fact that he was astute enough to say, "Hey, check that bat out."
Yeah.
And they ejected. I think the reason why that Brett ran out was because I think they ejected him.
Yeah, they ejected him. At first, they said he's out. He called them out. Yeah. And that's when the umpire said, "You're out." And then he got ejected.
You're out, and then you're really out. Yeah.
Out.
But I think that was because it was the top of the ninth. I think that was game, set, match, Yankees.
Right.
And then
exactly.
When they resumed the game, then the Yankees couldn't. I mean, that is the one and only instance. Nowadays. I don't ever remember a protest being upheld. Besides,
I mean, that's like the sign stealing episodes with the Astros and all that stuff. Like nobody's taking World Series titles away. Nobody's diminishing games. You might have lost draft picks or something like that, but no games have been overturned or upheld or vice versa. Right. So it's just crazy.
I don't think that game made any difference to either team because the Yankees by then they were kind of in their decline, and the Royals didn't win until 85, I think.
Yeah, 85. Yep.
So yeah, they were a couple of years before, but man, oh man. And George Brett, one of the greatest third basemen of all time, Hall of Famer. But
went on to make that's what it was. Wasn't it Preparation H commercials? That's right. What he made. For those times when you're sitting on the bench or something like that, he was saying
right.
Crazy commercial like that.
I think he did have hemorrhoids. I think that was another thing he was noted for.
So we got to come up with a topic for the next Twin Bill Baseball podcast. What do you think?
Yeah, and if anybody out there has any ideas, I'm kind of drawing up blank at the moment. Not that there's always going to be.
And the smartest guy in the room, Dan's not here. What's he on assignment? Where is he?
Dan I think Dan's still at work. We did this a little bit early today.
Oh, so he's really on assignment. I get you.
Yeah. But, our collective brain trust here, plus anybody who's out there listening, you want to make a suggestion. Definitely. But I'm sure that there's so many topics.
Shoot us some comments. Let us know. This is the Twin Bill Baseball Podcast. Benny, always a pleasure. The Playa. We got Wrestling Remembered tomorrow, right? Wrestling Remembered coming up tomorrow?
Yes, we do.
We're live,
Great moments in wrestling history.
Yeah, I did my homework on that one. I got some good little tidbits for you guys on that one.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
But I want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching the Twin Bill Baseball Podcast. I have been What a Day Joe. That is Benny Scala, the Playa. Folks, we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.